Well then, 4 days, or is it 5 days later, heading back to Hest Bank. It's a higher tide, and hopefully there's a little bit of colour in the sky, as you can see in the distance. Got a haircut, so you can tell that I'm not making it up. I'm going to take a left at these boats and head down to the bay. High tide is in around about 30 minutes time. I'm cutting it fine today. In fact, I made a bit of a mistake. I thought the high tide today was about 12:15. I never read my mobile phone correctly, or I was getting the days mixed up. Anyway, should have enough time to get a few shots. A bit of tail, past this little yellow bush. If the tide is higher than it was last week. Seems to be. It seems to be. Disappointing. It's still, in this area where I want to do the groynes, isn't quite reaching them. But there's about 25 minutes to go. But further down it seems to be more up to the shore, so I'm going to head there first. I've just checked on my mobile. High tide is 35 minutes away. Now the groynes in the distance, it will reach that, but I think they will be better photographing them when I've got my zoom lens. So I'm going to concentrate just around this corner with some more close-up work. A few boulders, the concrete posts, things like that. But it is higher than when I was here last week, because last week I walked out on that little bit of an island and I got a hell of a lot further out, so it is coming in higher. I'm hoping it comes to these posts here. There's a little bit of a path leading down. Can you see the 3 boulders? Bit of a pathway down. That, if the tide can reach roughly around to here, will be a cracking shot. Right, as you can see, the tide is rising. I've just been dithering about down there a little bit. Almost high tide now. It looks like the groynes in the distance are underwater. The most prominent groynes that I want to photograph, this. I'll take a shot of them, but I know now I need me at least a 200mm. And also the first post along here, I'll show you now, that I wanted to photograph is just underwater. Is it going to get any higher? You see in the distance the little pathway leading down to the 3 posts. I don't think it's going to get high enough today. Never mind, it might do. Tide's, it's still coming in. I'm just taking one of that long post. I know it's a bit naff, but just to see what it looks like. Let's just hope that the tide can maybe come to round about here. Highly unlikely, but you never know. Hang around. I've just done a 30-second exposure. I'm doing a 2-minute 43-second exposure. It's still coming in, which is good, and it's beginning to reach the end of them steps there. So I'm going to play around with this for the next 30 minutes or so until the tide starts going back out, and then I'm going to move on to the groynes. I'm loving this. The tide is still coming in. How much further it'll come in I don't know, but I'm now doing a 1 minute 45 second exposure with a 13 stop filter on to smooth everything out. One thing I've learned, I am going to have to buy some magnetic filters. What a faff screwing them on and off. So that is going to be one of my next purchases. In fact, I'll get my daughter to get me that for Christmas. But I've looked at a few of the images just round here so far, and they look quite good. I'm quite happy with it. So there's my timer, 1:45. The only thing we're doing these long exposures is that the processing time is almost the same time as the exposure time. So when you're up against it, that's nearly 4 minutes gone, just taking the shot and then letting it process. So I'd imagine if you're at sunset and time's running out, you might not be able to do as many of these long exposures. Right, a quick lesson: if you use glasses, always use them. Always use them. Because I set up the shot before with a 13 stop filter, looked on my phone for what the shutter speed should be, and it said 1:45. I looked at the shot, it was underexposed. So I looked back at my app and I had set for an 8 stop. So I've had to take the shot again. It's now an extra 1 minute 15 seconds. So always, if you use glasses, use them, because that's what they're for. Right, I'm having a little bit of play on this. It's like a pipe and a bit of a wall that leads out. I've got a 13 stop on again. I'm finding it a little bit difficult with a 13 stop because they seem to still be a little bit underexposed when I'm using the settings on the app. But to be fair, the water does look a little bit brown and muddy, so perhaps it's that. I just took a shot at the other side of that pipe, and I've looked in the back of my camera, and I think it's the best shot of the day so far. So it just goes to show, I couldn't believe it. Now what it looks like on my computer, who knows. Now I'm taking a composition here of this green seaweed on the rocks and with the groynes in the distance, and I'm doing a long exposure again with a 13 stop on, and the exposure time is 2:43. 2:43. Now another thing I've noticed is because I'm filming and got that much on my mind, I keep forgetting the time here because I'm using the remote control on my camera. So I'm going to have to keep this out so I don't forget the times. Too many things going on. I've got GoPros, mobile phones, cameras, remote controls. Ooh, but I like it. I'm enjoying it. So I'm waiting for that to process, and what I might do now as I'm here is hang around a little bit. As the tide goes out, I might be able to get a little bit nearer the groynes, and as you can see in the distance, there's 3 little bits of wood sticking up. Again, can I get any nearer? Now they will probably now be under a metre of water, so it's obviously I'm not going to go out yet, but it could be an option if I hang around for another 20 minutes or so, because it's going down pretty quick now. Right, that's me finished. I've been out to these, as the tide's dropped, to these little groynes here. I went out to that little bit of, it's a chain or something in the distance, and I had a look at these little groynes over here. The tide doesn't half go out fast. So I don't know what the shots will be like. I will have a look when I get home. I've learnt a few things today. One, I need another jumper on. It's cold now. 2, I need a zoom lens. 3, I need some magnetic filters. But apart from that, enjoyed it. So let's get home, have a look at the pictures on the PC and put a little video together. What a nice afternoon. The weather's been okay. It's a little bit chilly though, so in future I'll wrap up a little bit more. Still a little bit more exploration to do here at Hest Bank, especially with the zoom lens, and in the future as well I will find somewhere else to go. So it's goodbye from me and my little Sony A7 III. Why do I like photography? Well, creating something. You're turning probably something that's nothing into something that's something. And also, I've just been there on the bay, 2.5 hours in my own little world. Just focused, enjoying. Brilliant. Nothing else for that 2.5 hours was in my mind. It was as if I was the only person on the planet. Fantastic feeling. That is why I like taking pictures. It's a solitary thing as well, unless you can go out with like-minded people. But then again, the banter would be good, travelling would be good, but when it came to getting your compositions, would you be able to concentrate as much and get lost creating when you know that there's people around you waiting for you, or you're waiting for them, or whatever? I don't know. Anyway, get home, or get a few bottles of beer, because Manchester City are on tonight in the Champions League.